Welcome back to my art table. I am going to be doing a very simple textured sort of landscape, abstract landscape. I'm starting with a primed canvas board here, small to fit in the frame of the camera. I am going to be doing some larger canvas tutorials as some people have asked for. So if you're interested in those, definitely sign up for my newsletter. The link's below, and I will be sending out information on those. But for our purposes today, we're going to work in a horizontal format. I'm working with molding paste and a palette knife. You can use various textures, modeling paste, molding paste, heavy gels. Those all will work fine for this. So I'm laying this down in a horizontal format. And I want to put on a little underneath. Welcome back, and now we have dried the texture. And I'm going to apply my color. Now for this, I'm going to work with some blues. Big surprise, I know. Some of my colors are getting a little dried up, but right now what I've got here is a Prussian blue, which is a real pretty deep blue. And I'm going to use some metallic as well. So I'm going to put down a little bit of gold metallic on my palette. I'm going to use a dry flat brush. I'm going to pick up a little of that gold first, and I'm going to just kind of put it underneath my layer on my basic, in no certain pattern. I just want it kind of underneath because we're going to remove some of the top layer and have some of that gold show through. I'm actually going to use just a little bit more of the gold metallic. You could use a pretty silver, you could use a copper. Any color really. This is just the technique of how this works. Okay, so I've laid that down. Don't really need to wait a long time, especially for metallics to dry. If you're used to working with metallics, they dry pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and paint right on top of this. So using the blue and my same brush, I'm not even going to change brushes. Take that paint off there. Just a little bit of water on my palette. I'm going to pick up some of that really intense blue, and as you can see, it's very intense, very pretty. I am going to work with that on this top section. This is actually going to be the top of my painting. This is the bottom, this is the middle line. So working like that, I'm going to bring a fairly intense layer of blue on top. Here I'm going to remove some of the color from my middle line right here. I don't want quite so much blue right on that texture. I'm going to come back over that just a little bit light. Okay? So now what I'm going to do, take this incredibly unique tool called a plastic fork. I'm going to draw up some of this paint by doing this rather jarring on the ears technique of removal, which is going to bring the underneath color up, both the white and the gold. Now you can do this as little as you like or as much as you like to bring that color up. You can go back over it if you like, adding some, leaving just a few of the lines to show through. Actually, you could probably put even more of the gold underneath to pop through. This is very subtle. I can see it in the light here. I don't know if you can see it, but it is subtle. The gold bits coming through here. So you can do this as much as you like, back and forth, just to create that bit of removal. And layer and layer and layer. So I like to do that to create a unique sort of texture that I can't get, well, I haven't found another way, but you know, whatever works, right? So painting on top of that kind of gives me a very interesting multi-layered look. And then I have my blue with my bits of gold and white coming through, my line of texture, and then down here we're going to put a different color. And for that I'm going to do a creamy white. I have a small bowl I was using white in. I'm just going to put some titanium white in the bowl. I'm going to add a little bit of my gold, sticking with some just basic colors here, so you can see that. Another flat brush coming through, mixing that up to create sort of a soft white with just a very small hint of sort of a pearlescence, but not too much. You could create more if you like. I'm going to go over that texture in the center. Of course, you can always paint, remove, bringing that down a bit. Create sort of that water cascade effect. Using your brush very lightly. I'm going to take my damp paper towel that I had before, just remove a little bit of that white, soften that along here. So this is a painting that once you have your texture down, you know, you can put your layers of color down and wait for them to dry, but this is something that you could finish pretty much in a session. You know, sometimes I know a lot of you write me and say you don't have the patience to really work and you want to get it all done in one session, and believe me, I understand that. I used to be that way myself. I understand the value of the having some patience now and how it really creates a pretty layered painting. All I'm doing now is I had the blue on my brush and I'm laying it flat just to kind of add a little depth right in here where I remove some color. So I'm not doing anything new. This is just what I had on my brush. Again, my white that I had on my brush coming along here on my texture, laying my brush flat and just picking up the bits of raised texture with that white. So you can pretty much do a painting like this in a day. You know, you might want to wait for some bits of it to dry and then come back and play with it. Often that's, you know, artists will start several paintings because they have to wait for things to dry, so they're working on more than one at a time, which used to kind of blow my mind because I always thought, wow, you just work on one at a time. But you know, writers have several novels going at one time. People have more than one project, so if you have the space to let things dry, that's what you can do. All right, so we've done that. The fork that I was using, kind of waited a while to work on the white. I don't know if I'll be able to bring up anything, probably not, but I could have brought up a little more down here with the gold underneath. If you can see where you laid your gold, I might put a little more gold down. And then white. And then do that same effect down here. You don't have to, of course. And I think what I'm going to do is something a little different after using this to kind of scrape a little bit of this, just to get some texture, really, is all I'm doing. The paint is almost dry. I'm just getting a little bit of texture in my bottom layer here. So it doesn't look so smooth and you know, typical. It looks a little more interesting, at least in my eyes. I'm going to put a little more blue on top. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm going to take a little bit of, on a clean flat brush, dry, a little of my gold. You can lay it on a palette. You can lay it out and pick it up that way, or you can put it right on your brush. And you don't want to dip in, you just lay it flat. Okay, so to finish up, we've got the gold on our brush, a little bit, and just tipping it on that texture. Just flat brushing right along there, just so the texture tips pick that up. Okay, and you can do that as much or as little as you like. With what was left on my brush, I just kind of went over a little bit of the very light, the blue area, laid down just a little glimmer on top of there to bring it through, and just brought just a little bit down here into the white area, just to create just a little more interest. And that's about it. So that is this fairly quick and easy abstract landscape, just a linear pattern. Again, my blue is fairly uneven, but that's kind of what I wanted. You can go through, you can have this be just as deep and dark as you like it to be. You can have it quite a bit lighter, whatever you like. I kind of like this with a lot of unevenness, but I scraped the fork over after I laid the blue down over the gold, just to bring some of that up from underneath, laid down some white, did a little more scraping, removed a little bit of the white with the paper towel that I had, and then I tipped out the ridges of the texture with gold on my brush, just using a very flat movement across like that. So I will wait for this to dry, and then I'm going to put a nice glaze on it and call it good. Thank you so much for watching, and please sign up and subscribe to my channel and to my other tutorials and my large scale tutorials that I'm going to be doing as well. Thanks for watching.